Welcome to Courageous Conviction. Remember that Jeff and I record each Saturday 5 episodes. So please hit the like button, subscribe so you catch all 5 episodes. We usually start out with one theme or topic. We have to go down a lot of rabbit holes to really understand it. Some things are more sensitive than others right now, what's going on in the world. So hit the like button, subscribe, and let's jump into this video. +35 years go by. It's a long time to be away from the church.
It was.
You're pushing towards 80. You're in good health. Your husband passes away. You move back to your home city, your home state, and you reunite your family again. And then something happens that you decide you're going to go back to church.
Now, I've always had a testimony of the church. I always knew that the LDS Church was the perfect church and it was the right church. I never got that total feeling going to the Catholic Church. I didn't have that total fulfillment that I have when I'm in the LDS Church, with the knowledge that we have of our lives here on earth being sealed to our families, and then going on to the other kingdoms down the road after we leave. And when I was thinking about coming back, I told my granddaughter, a couple of years before coming back, that if I ever was to come back to California, that I would go back to the LDS Church. I would go back to church.
So the seed of your testimony was then planted, and you never uprooted that seed.
Never uprooted.
Yeah, I was the same way. I never uprooted the seed. I knew the choices I made when I became less active were choices I made. I knew it had nothing to do with the church. Now, the people of the church, different story. And as you mentioned earlier, the church is perfect. The church is perfect in its restoration. The people are the ones that tend
we have to always
mess that
remember
up.
that the church is perfect, but the people are not.
Yeah,
we are not perfect. We're human beings, and we're going to choose, and not willingly, not realizing, that we're doing it and making mistakes.
And it takes an art of patience to really go to church, especially today with so much division today. Art of patience to go to church and sit there and allow people to be people, and allow the Lord to be the Lord. It's kind of difficult, isn't it?
It's very difficult, but you have to remember you're there for Jesus Christ
and for yourself,
God the Father, and for yourself. But my love is for my God, my Father. He comes first.
Well, that's interesting. That's neat to hear. Now, let me ask you some tough questions. During your life, you had events in your life where you could have cursed God and blamed God for tragic things that happened in your life.
I could have, but I never did. Never did blame God.
Yeah, I'm just going to mention briefly. You say you lost your daughter.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and that was to a brutal murder. We won't go into that detail.
She was murdered, and her husband murdered her. And then he turned around.
Her own husband murdered
her. Her own husband, the father of her 2 little children, and he turned around and he killed her 2 children.
And they were, what, 4 and 2?
4 and 2 years. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a very tragic and sad event. Now, you could have very easily, and there's a lot of people out there that will probably listen to this interview that would take an event like that and blame God and say, it couldn't be, God, if you'd allow something such innocent children and my innocent daughter.
Those thoughts go through your mind. Why would you take those children? But he didn't take those children's lives. Donald, her husband, took their lives. He committed this crime, these sins, these horrible sins. God didn't, God doesn't have control of our emotions, our feelings. We as human beings have to stay in control of our own feelings and our own emotions. Controlling our emotions is one of the most important things I think we can do every single day. We have to be able to control the way we feel and the thoughts that we have in our head. And if we have thoughts towards killing your family, that's sad. You should try, if you have those thoughts, I could just kill him. You need not even jokingly think those things.
I think Satan plays on that anymore.
Satan does play on it.
He's very powerful these days. You get a thought in your head and
I noticed for me, and coming back to, I don't want to get away from that too much, but I noticed for me that it's a daily battle, especially having been outside. And I always used to tell my kids, if you never tasted the apple, then you don't know what an apple tastes like, right?
Right.
And especially having been in the world and experienced some of the things you call fun in the world, right? That cause a lot of us to leave that covenant path.
Was the
There's
world thing.
well, and it's fun. It's and the world is made to about having fun and being happy,
Well,
right?
we're supposed to have fun and be happy, but we have to watch. There's a moral issue there, and you have to be able to control your morals.
Well,
And
may I add this? Maybe I mean we're there's nothing against having fun, nothing against happiness, but I think our pursuit here is more in we sometimes forget what our purpose is in life, and that is family and joy. We find a purpose, a work for a purpose. And I think that's what the world gets away from is that individual purpose, the individual responsibility. It's just much easier to blow it off and say, I got to think about me, right? And then I'll worry about that later. And a lot of times we don't get around to worrying about it. We get so caught up in thinking about me for 35, 40 years before we get married nowadays, the kids, that it's very difficult to come into a relationship when you've had so much me time, right?
yeah, that's true.
So coming back to this now, so you had these challenging times. You could have cursed your father, you could have cursed your savior, and used that really as an excuse to really never come back to him.
No, I could have, but I personally clung to God. Thank God for my husband being the religious man that he is. It helped me also to grasp God in during this hard time that I was going through and still go through. But I know that Christ didn't take their lives. I don't know if it was planned. I know God knew probably that it was going to happen. I feel that because everything is planned out.
Well,
But
and just to give a little bit there. It's funny, we're reading from Jesus Christ this morning, and it mentions in this like chapter 3, I think, at the beginning, talked about how the foreknowledge of God, that He knows our decisions, He knows the outcome, but there is no plan that goes against our agency. Nothing's controlled.
that's just it. We have our agencies.
Yeah, we have our
and our
agency.
agencies are what control what's happening around us.
Yeah.
And as my daughter had called me the evening that this took place, and she said that my husband came home from work and he's just in a weird mood, that I don't know what's going on, but she said he's acting very strange. And I told her to take her children and go to her father's house, which was about a half an hour away. And then I told her to call the police. And because she had problems with him being violent with her, and in California, she had a restraining order against him. Why she took him back, I'm not quite sure. And they moved to Idaho. But anyway, she didn't leave, and he went out to the garage, got his shotgun, came in and shot her, and then turned around and shot him.
I'm going to ask one other side note, just as a side note, and not just the gospel, but that would be an easy case for you also to be very much against guns, having lost your daughter and your grandchildren.
That's interesting. No, because growing up with guns my whole life and coming from a family that hunt, I'm not against guns. I'm not against guns at all. Pistols, I'm not against pistols either for self-protection.
I guess it comes back to your understanding of agency. That's what it comes down to.
What it is. It is. It's
because anybody can kill with anything, right?
Yeah.
And the idea is interview.
Well, look what's happening nowadays. They're using knives.
Yeah, exactly.
All over California, all these killings lately have been all stabbings. Everybody's being stabbed to death.
Yeah, well, even in London, they have a higher homicide rate than New York City does, and they have no gun rights. The police don't even have gun rights, as far as I know. So it's mostly knives, right? So then the next step is to banish the knives, but I don't want to go there.
We can't banish knives. We have to have our knives.
Well, though they make kitchen knives, and there's a certain type of knives, like for the buck knives, stuff like that.
It doesn't matter.
When I lived in Latin America, they had already made the knives a lethal weapon. You can go to prison for a knife as well as having a shotgun shell. down Ecuador, for example, right? And but unfortunately, the immigration issue got so bad there that they had to give them back their gun rights about 8 months ago. Right. So I want to get back to this though. That's a whole nother subject. What was the subject on agency? And that's what I want to come back to. So in your agency, 35 plus years being away, and you come back, let's celebrate that. You come back, you start paying tithing, which is difficult for you. It was difficult for you to budget yourself. You like to spend, you like to shop.
Yep.
I know you a little bit.
I thank you for being with us on Courageous Conviction. Remember, there's 5 episodes each week that we put out. We have to go down a lot of rabbit holes, so stay with us, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and don't miss tomorrow's episode on Courageous Conviction.